And here we go. I'm going to bring you a Haypro right here from Team Liquid. He is in the red trunks, and he is playing Zerg to the southeast of the Shikuras Plateau versus opponent in the cross position over here. In the blue trunks, we have OGS SK Nada. He is playing Terran to the northwest.
And if I was Haypro, I don't know. You're playing against Nada, number one. It's going to be difficult no matter how many drones you pull, no matter how many lings you make. He scouted it. He did it fine. He had a 15 spawning pool. And, you know, he pulled off in plenty of time. It still couldn't defend it. So, I mean, that might be a personal flaw of his. So, I wouldn't... If I was his coach, I'd be like, hey, dude, just go spawn and pool first. And then go hatch. You can still get your hatch, Haypro. Don't worry. You can still have a hatch. Just go spawn and pool first. Be a lot safer all around.
But I want the hatch.
He's like, I want to hatch first.
That's all Zerg for you, isn't it? You approve of the greedy Zerg idea, but it's like, I want to hatch first. It's like, well, I would like to kill you first. So, you know what? That works for me as a Terran player, and I think I'm going to stick to it.
So I'll have to follow it and see if Nada will do 2 racks straight again. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. He can change it up, though. And let's have a look. Okay, so he is building the 12 SCV here. So we're not going to see exactly the same build. And there's a lot of different varieties he can pull from here. He can still... I wouldn't be surprised, though. I mean, Korean Terrans have the guts. I wouldn't be surprised if he just did like a 1-Racks Expo. They just have it. So.
Well, he can't. I mean, he's 1 game up. He can afford to take something a little bit risky against his opponent. The thing about Haypro is that Haypro is just the macro Zerg. He goes in for these really long 30-minute games. And once you get into that kind of thing where he's got all the tech and he's got the Infestor sneaking around the place, then it's really hard to deal with Haypro. That said, you take him in the mid-game, and there is a possibility that you can eliminate him before that comes into play.
It's really funny, if you think about the first game we saw in the series, we saw Haypro go 16 pool, second game 15 pool, still lost. He's like, alright man, let's do it 14. So he's on 14 pool this time. Brought it down a drone in each game. It would have been funny if he did open 2 racks again, but it is going to be Refinery, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some Reactor Hellion play here. It's pretty standard right now against Zerg.
Yeah, it's pretty standard against anything at the minute, and I can hardly blame anyone for using Hellions. They're such a fun unit. I'm so glad I'm Terran.
And we do actually a Telab, surprisingly.
That's interesting. Reaper fast expansion is a possibility.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen players like Boxer really utilize the Reaper recently, and especially against a player who doesn't have speed yet. He's going to be able to do a lot of harassment with this Reaper, and he is bringing a Marine. He might be able to put a bunker down. This is a very Goody-esque style. Goody loves to bunker rush with a Reaper, and it works a lot of the time, surprisingly.
Well,
and there goes the bunker.
Yeah, and it's in a good place as well. That's going to force a very large drone pull in order to do it. The thing is, he's got a Marine, so a single drone is not going to be enough. And Haypro has pulled another 3. And a Spinecrawler going down from that one. So there's only 3 drones moving in. The thing is, Nada's going to get surrounded if he's not careful. The thing is, he should be able to slip away from that. And I have to wonder if he'll be able to get that down. It's probably not looking all that likely. He'll go for the cancel. The thing is, it doesn't matter all that much. Haypro stealing some gas right there to try and limit what his opponent's doing. And no doubt in the process also saw that the Tech Lab was on there, so he is expecting the Reaper.
Yeah, and the Reaper can still go in and scout and can pick off loose drones. If you have clutch control and you're not idle with your mouse and so on, you can actually use the Queen quite efficiently to defend against this. And already Haypro in position, ready for this. I mean, he scouted the Tech Lab on there. He knows the Reaper's coming, but not from where. So it's going to come around the back, and it could potentially get 2-3 drones here. Yeah,
I absolutely love Shikuras for Reaper play. It's so good. You can go in from so many different angles. There's a big wide open facing. You can get all sorts of great information. Haypro is ready to deal with that since his Queen was pretty much hugging the hatchery. That said, Nada is going to get some great information. He doesn't see the spawning pool, but he knows the Zerglings are out, so that's irrelevant. And he might be able to pick off a couple of drones here, or he may also just decide to leave. And of course, 1 alive, Reaper plus 1 kill, and scouting information, as far as I'm concerned, is a good trade. And you called it, Hellions on the way.
So, well, it's not with a reactor, so it's not quite the same, but we do have a Hellion, and there goes the investment into the blue flame. And that's a pretty good upgrade, John, in this game.
I've been told blue flame is pretty good. That's only actually recently been put into the game, as you can see. Before that, it wasn't blue, so the upgrade was not actually the same thing. And since it's now become blue, people have started to use it.
I know, they're like, oh yeah, blue flame.
Yeah, of course, it's got a blue icon now. There you go. Yeah, why did I forget about that? Next thing, they're going to change the color of Behemoth Reactor, and everyone will start building that.
Very, very may well be, John.
It is a possibility.
We do have 3 queens out now, so we can get the creep spread going, which is going to be pretty needed against these Hellions. I guess is the best way to say, but the star put is going down, so we'll be looking for some form of Hellion drops. And the thing is with Hellions, It's not a huge investment to build them and so on. If you can defend against them superbly, you'll be so far ahead. The problem is, once Blue Flame has been upgraded, which Hayden now knows, by the way, because he's seen 2 Hellions, it's like 2 shots. That's all it takes. 1 shot each, and your entire drone line's gone. It's so beneficial if you can get that off. And especially if he comes in from multiple directions. You can come in from the front, he can drop in the back, and that's where the difficulty comes in defending against them.
Yeah, Blue Flame is really, really strong at the moment, and there are calls for nerfs. That said, I don't make comments on balance. You're Zerg, so you probably hate it.
I don't mind, man. I don't mind. I'm neutral.
I'll bear that in mind the next time we play a ladder game, which will probably be never, because you'll destroy me. Whatever the case, 2 more barracks coming up right there. There's the swap around to start producing large numbers of Hellions if need be, and of course if this fails you can go for something else. Roach is already on the way right here for Haypro, which is exactly what he should be building at the moment. I would like to see maybe a spine crawler in the mineral line as well, just to try and dissuade it, but one way or the other he's got really good creep spread up until this point. That said, he hasn't actually joined the ramp with his main yet, so that's something he needs to consider, especially against the Hellion drop.
And Hellion's doing a bit of damage to this queen now. Will have to retreat versus the roaches, but the roaches give Nara a lot of information now. He knows that the lair has been delayed because the roach one's been put down. Roaches have been made from that, which means the medivac drop is going to be even more viable now. There's nothing.
It's got Marines in it this time. Yeah.
And it is going to come down and do a lot of drop action here. And if you can pull the roaches out of position, he can swing in.
Yeah. This is a bit of an elevation play by the looks of it. I think he'll pick up and go, and that's exactly what he's doing. Going to do some pressure right here and take out one of those. There's a nice quick supply block and a pick up and go. He's still got those Hellions in the base. The thing is, he can outrun these, and this creep spread is actually really bad in the base. Look at this. He is deliberately avoiding the creep at this point to try and outmaneuver his opponent. There's the pickup, and oh look, you can't shoot me anymore.
Not at all, but there are 3 queens. Just to be a little bit careful because they will be able to target fire that. He's not going to really be able to do too much damage here, but he will be able to just put pressure on Haypro, and actually gets down here.
Yep, that's a big bunch right there, but he doesn't take too much, and he ends up losing a Hellion in the process, so that's really well defended there by Haypro. The problem is he's going to go back and forth, and he can keep doing that. He also gets crucial information on the Spire, so that's very helpful for Nada, so he knows exactly what's coming. He's got plenty of time to deal with that, and Nada's going to get out of there without losing that medevac.
Yeah, and he did a bit of damage there, killing 3 drones, which is better than nothing, clearly. Meanwhile, he's getting up his economy. We're looking at the unit tab, 47 SCVs and mules versus 49, so it's looking pretty good for him. The 3rd base was delayed here, and he also knows the timing of the Spire and so on, so he knows that he doesn't need to add turrets right now, but can start them very, very shortly. And we do have +1 Stim just finishing now with the combat shields, and it's going to be a pretty big push when Stim finishes, because, I mean, he's kind of neglecting tanks, but he doesn't need tanks. He's got a lot of Marauders now, he's got Blue Flame, and especially with the Stim now, there's no Bailey Nest or anything to try to deny these Marines from killing all these Mutalisks.
Yeah, there is actually a Baneling Nest, by the way. It's actually got centrifugal hooks coming up right now. So, but that said, he doesn't have any Banelings yet, so there's all sorts of possibilities for that. That could be really interesting nonetheless. And if we have a look at army supply count, Nada's just got such a huge lead right now. Haypro is going really hard into drones, and he's actually not doing all that well in that regard. He's only on 51 versus 54. He's picking up his 3rd right now, but of course Nada is well aware of it and is now moving out to, let's just say, repossess the land.
And this is a pretty strong push here. It does have combat shields, doesn't have any upgrades yet in terms of +1, but a couple of medivacs should be on their way. They're actually idle at home. If they were there, this would be even stronger, but still, this 3rd base is in trouble.
Yes, it is, and that's going to be really hard to defend, almost impossible. In fact, look at that. Nada doesn't really lose anything in that push, maybe 1 Hellion. Hey, there's a free queen, let's take that one out as well, and the hatchery eliminated. And now Haypro is moving out. He does have a force of Mutalisks right here, looking for +2 upgrade, but he doesn't have that right yet on these particular Banelings. They're going to crash into it and do a reasonable amount of damage, actually. Nada did not move out there at all, lost most of his Marines, and the Mutants are going to clean this up nicely.
Yeah, that's really good for Haypro there. Brings back the game a little bit, so it's not so far ahead for Nada right now, but at the same time, he's still ahead. He's getting a 3rd command center. It's looking pretty good from his upgrades are good as well. They are now 1-1. But this is where Haypro shines, is with these Mutalisks.
Yeah, you were saying before that his music control is really, really good, and I would have to agree.
Then.
Well, never mind then. Whatever the case, most of the time his music control is really, really good. Nada is just a little bit better at stimming to win. That said, he is able to do good damage, and now Haypro has been forced back once again. We can have a look at units killed. You'll see there Nada has done a little bit better, and resources lost. the Zerg player Haypro is bleeding quite badly.
We have a single Soul Hellion in this medivac that has not been scouted yet to the south side of this base. Is going to go into only 2 shots required. It is on orange health though.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Haypro now getting back some of his trademark Mutalisk control, getting out of there without taking any real damage. In comes the Hellion, and...
The drone's gone.
Yep, that's not bad. That's not a bad start. That's 9 now. Let's see how many he can get. Out he goes. He's going to lose it, though, because the Mutas are there, so never mind. He was heroic.
That was pretty good for one Hellion.
You can't blame him, really.
4 or 5 kills there. That's pretty good. Though the Mutalisk harassment was pushed out for now. And like I said, this is where Haypro can really turn this game around. The problem was he lost that 3rd base. He lost both those extractors, that 5th and 6th extractor. So he doesn't have the gas required to get up that brutal, brutal amount of Mutalisks.
Yeah, once you get that critical mass and missile turrets just don't even matter anymore, and you've got the upgrades to push through Marines really easily, you basically force Thors because there's no other choice, and how else are you going to shoot them down?
Yeah, and we do not see any Thors yet.
Nope.
But what is really good for Haypro as well is he's actually got +2 melee attack for these Zerglings and Balings, of course, and that's pretty nice. He's going to be able to deny this 3rd base for a little bit. Won't be able to kill it, but can push it back from expanding there. Meanwhile, is going to take a 4th base, but denied.
Yes, there are. We have dudes here. I'm sorry, and I believe that actually was not cancelled. I don't think he got there quick enough. So Nada shuts that down very nicely indeed. Zerglings will go around and try and get us around, but Nada is leaving immediately. Oh, there are Mutas there. He's going to have to run in that direction. I think he's going to have to make his stand here. Doesn't really have too much of a choice. And there we go. But still, he's still alive, but not for much longer.
Yeah, and I mean, it's now 16 minutes into the game, and these extractors still haven't been mined from. And there is a drop in the main base as well of Haypro. And pretty nice play from Nada, really abusing the fact that these Mutalisks are all over the place, harassing him, so they can't really defend the drops very well. So that's pretty good, and he's doing a lot of damage. Killed another extractor. Very important to note there is that Haypro just doesn't have the gas required to play this matchup right now.
Yeah, and I've got to say, I mean, he hasn't killed a huge number of workers up until this point. He's only dealt with 11 in 16 minutes, so it's not as amazing as it could be. Certainly, this drop harassment is also costing Nada quite a bit. But whatever the case, he in-come the Mutas once again, and that's a very, very vulnerable spot. He's nailing down just a few. He still doesn't really have that big ball, or maybe he does. Smashing his way through a very small group of Marines right now. Hey, free medevacs, let's grab them. And we can stop the missile turret down, and he almost denies mining.
Yeah, and he is pushed back once again, but he's looking pretty good. And like I said, this is where he's going to really show his skill and show how he can beat Nada and how he did in the past as well. So 62 drones though, which is my only worry. He's not very high yet. 21 drones in production. Guess that solves that issue.
Well, yes, yeah, that would do it. That's one of the biggest drone builds I've ever seen. Whatever the case, he is now grabbing +2 flyer attack, which is going to make him absolutely wonderful against Nada's Marines right there. That said, there's still a lot of damage to come in. Ground carapace upgrade coming in, and the expansion spreading across the map. And Haypro with really great creep spread. He's actually over halfway across the map now, so that's going to be absolutely fantastic for him. Nada showing no real signs of cleaning that out. Really smart play, trying to break down the back rocks, or at least trying to wear them down just a little bit. You never know when that can come in handy.
And another hole Haypro will find here by the supply depots and both the engineering bay and the armory. Oh, this is going to be big.
Oh yeah, that's 2 engineering bays. Can he cancel that? If he focuses on the right one, he could. And the question is, will he? Will he notice which one is researching and which is not? Looks like he will not see that one at all, but he will clear this one up. He's not going to cancel the +2, which is unfortunate. He can shut down this for the time being, but he'll lose too many mutas in the process. So that was unfortunate there for Haypro.
And now 3-3 has started for Nada now. Once they get out there, we know the damage of +3. That is pretty good.
Yeah, it's brutal. Bear in mind that +3 weapon for Marines increases their DPS by 50%. It's one of the best upgrades in the game you can possibly get for Terran.
And that hole is pretty vulnerable now. A lot of units there. And to be honest, Nada really doesn't have that many medivacs to actually heal the amount of stims that are going across. So this is really good for Haypro right now. He's in his comfort zone. He's at 80 drones. He's got Hive. He's got Panathan Glands coming in Infestors very, very shortly. So that hole needs to be fixed. And we do have another turret being added on by the supply depots. And another one by these engineering bays. So... and it looks like Haypro realizes the weakness. He's going to poke in there one more time before that turret.
Why not? This is what mutas are for in the mid-game at the end of the day. They're trying to keep your opponent overstimming. They're trying to keep your opponent away from the front line. They're opening up opportunities. They're preventing expansions where possible. They're just nipping away at your opponent. You're never supposed to fight head-on with mutas, and Haypro understands that as well as any Zerg player and is exploiting that to the fullest and has now finally forced Thors.
And he's trying to take the fourth base here, but is denied by a Soul Ling. He's going to get chased down quite easily. The kind of timing, though, when these 3-3 finishes is when Nada's going to want to push out. And I'm looking at the height. It's only now completing. He has to go to Greatest Spy first, and then he has to, as the Corruptors.
Takes a while.
So there's a pretty big window there to hit for Nada, but I'm not sure if he realizes that.
Yeah, we're about to find out. He's going to try and crack his way through that missile turret, which he can do, but he can't deal with the Marines on the ground with the 2-2 upgrades going in for the 3-3 as well. He wheels around to do some reasonable damage right here to the minimal line, and right now Nada is actually completely out of position there. So nice, really nice play there by Haypro, and a bit of a slip from Nada.
Indeed, and that is pretty good, and this is what we talked about, how Haypro has great Mutalisk control early, mid, and late. And this base is now up, though, which is not really good for Haypro, obviously. He's killing rocks, trying to expand again very, very soon, and now we have the Greatest Spy. The Corrupt has been added on. But as you can see, plus 3-3 is pretty close to finishing now. He's adding on Vikings already, plus 2 attack for the Thors and the tanks. And if he decides to push soon, it's going to be pretty hard to defend for Haypro before the Greatest Spy comes in.
Yeah, Nada doesn't have a huge amount of scouting information. He's not aware of the 4th or the 5th base, and needless to say, he is actually aware of the hive tech. I believe he must have landed a scan at that point. The question is he aware of the Broodlords? He is not, but he will, of course, be thinking that they're coming, and he would be right. Greatest Spy is now 3/4 of the way finished. 10 Spying Crawlers coming up right here for Haypro, because, hey, why not? He's got the money for it, and that static defense will prove to be useful. It will hold up his opponent in the middle, and, of course, it's a great way to sink a few spare drones to get your supply really going.
And here's one of your favorite upgrades, Total Biscuit, the high-sec auto-tracking.
Yeah, high-sec auto-tracking, what a fantastic upgrade. So completely and totally underrated, I love it.
And look at this, he's going to sacrifice 10 SCVs.
On the altar of Haypro. Indeed. He shall give it to him. What he will be given as a blessing in return, I don't know. Probably the Plague, most likely.
And here comes this killer push right now. And,
that is unpleasant.
Yeah, this is going to be difficult, but the thing is, Broodlords are so close to popping right now. He doesn't have any ghosts whatsoever, no Ghost Academy, so he needs to go very, very soon. Vikings are at now 5 in total, but I don't think that's going to be enough, as these Broodlords are morphing out 8 in total. Yeah,
well, he's going to have 10, I think, by the time the Broodlords get there, because they're slow as all hell, so it will take a while, and the Vikings not so much. So Nada will be able to crack his way through there, easily annihilate this 5th base, and it's really going to come down to how well Haypro actually pulls this off. I think he's perhaps going to reposition at these Spying Crawlers, which is pretty smart, and that will tank a little bit of damage for the time being. And now he's going to line them up at the back right there. Good infestor count, and here come the Broodlords. And this is a good position right here for the Broodlords to be. The main problem I have right now is that Haypro doesn't have a really reliable way of dealing with these Vikings, so he's going to end up bleeding Broodlords in a very major way. And look at the way that Nada is actually set up here. This is really hard to assault.
And wow, he's actually going to go in here with Infested Terrans as well. Not such a good engagement for Haypro. Going in one at a time with a lot of different units. I think Nada's going to hold this, though.
I think it's fairly likely, honestly. The Banelings do go off and they take out the Thor to the side right there. The fungal growth was not enough to kill all of the Vikings, and Nada holds quite impressively there, and will now, of course, stim forward and take out the 5th.
Yeah, and that's really good for Nada. I mean, killing all those... Oh, actually,
pop! Very...
there,
yeah, very nice little fungal growth right there. He wasn't able to save the 5th, but he did significant damage in the process. So, Nada really invested an awful lot in that attack, and yes, he did a huge amount of damage, but if we look at it, Haypro does still have this 4th base. He's still mining. He can sustain that. He can rebuild, and he's already still got this supply lead right here over Nada.
And the thing is, though, that the main base is mined out. 2 extractors are close to be mined out, and the natural is pretty much mined out as well.
This is very true.
He's only really working on 2 mining bases right now, compared to Nada, who's on 3, and is looking for a 4th very, very, very soon. So he's basically got double the income almost, I suppose. Well, it's actually quite equal at the moment, because they haven't fully mined out yet, but they're about to. So the economy advantage is definitely in favor of Nada right now.
Yep, the question is, can Haypro do any real damage? He needs a really good engagement to turn this around at this point, otherwise Nada will slow push towards his base, make more and more command centers expand, because he simply has the ability to do just that, and will then win the game. That said, Haypro is a great endurance player, and he routinely takes games past the 30-minute mark and can come out on top. So let's see what he's got in store.
And we have the Terran building armor as well. Another upgrade I think you use too.
I very rarely use Terran building armor. Honestly, if my opponent is going nothing but 0/0 lings, then yes, I go Terran building armor. Other than that, it's fairly situational.
And the vehicle weapons are almost, well, have become +3 as well, and now another huge surge coming through the middle.
Yeah, Nada's got a lot of firepower available to him right here. He's actually going for the +3 vehicle weapon, which is a fairly rare upgrade. That was a really good fungal right there. A nice big stack killed off. The question is, how many more of those can you land? A couple more as well. The thing is, the Broodlords are still doing huge damage, and Haypro has no reliable way of dealing with these Vikings. He doesn't have enough Corruptors. The Broodlords will be blown out of the sky. This is quite the ranged engagement we've got going on, but Nada should be able to win it. Charging into a line of fire, the Zerglings don't even get close, and really Haypro doesn't have a lot left.
Wow, spreading's Viking much? I think so. He's
Indeed.
spreading those so well, minimizing damage from the fungal growth, and Haypro's left with his pants down now, 140 supply versus 176. And Nada is just holding absolutely fantastic position here.
Really good fungals actually there from Haypro, annihilating the entire Viking force. Unfortunately, the Infestors then explode because that's what tanks do to them. And Nada will push forward once again. Haypro is now spawning 70 Zerglings at once, which is fine unless you run into +3 tanks, and then they tend to also explode. But whatever the case, we'll see what he can do with this, and there is certainly a possibility that he'll be able to push this out.
What does the Neo Steel frame do?
Oh, Neo Steel Frame. You don't know about Neo Steel Frame. Yeah, Neo Steel Frame is an upgrade for bunkers, which allows you to put in 2 additional space. It also allows you to transport 10 SCVs in your flying command center instead.
It also affects the medivacs?
No.
Okay.
No, it does not, which is why nobody builds it. I'm not actually sure why Nada is building it at this point. Maybe he just thought it was cool. It actually changes the way bunkers look, and they look really awesome.
Yeah,
I think that's why.
I actually, in the BT, used a lot of strategies based around that. I just never knew what it was called, but... And this expansion does go down now for Haypro. And 200 supply for Nada, +3 tanks, +3 Marines, and a lot of Vikings to be made. So this is looking pretty bad for Haypro. And the biggest mistake he's really doing here is that he just doesn't have the Corruptor count. He keeps losing the air battle over and over and over.
Yep, Nada now pushing in for the kill once again, doing a severe damage really to the economy. And as you said, a lot of these bases are really mined out. This one's completely gone. This one is really close to going out. There's a lot of long distance mining going on right here from this base, and then we've got this huge engagement going on in the middle right here. And honestly, the Viking count is so high that the Broodlords are not going to last all that long. They're able to do some damage to the tank line, but Nada's holding this really, really well. And honestly, I don't think there's anything Haypro can now do. He's punching in a bunch of more Zerglings, but really they're just going to charge to their deaths on the +3 cannons of this.
Yeah, and 52 lings are being morphed in again. I mean, basically Nada's suffocating these expansions. He's cut the south one off with a drop, he's cut this 4th base off, he's cut another base off, and what that is cutting away from Haypro is the gas, and he just doesn't have enough. Like I said, he's kind of lacking Corrupt as well. He can't have everything right now.
No, well, you definitely can't if you don't have an awful lot of money, and right now Haypro was looking to try and do something now with this, but this tank line is really hard to penetrate, and even with the +3 upgrades, you're not going to survive all that long against +3 tanks. He goes for it nonetheless. He does a little bit of damage turning around, but losing loads of Zerglings in the process, and Haypro being forced gradually back to his natural.
Yeah, and this is looking like a win now for Nada. It's going to be still close though. There's a lot of fungal growth going down, but the economy of Nada is so strong. He's taken another base now. This is the Nada everybody came here to see. Yep,
there's no real doubt about that. He is going to lay it down right here. He's going to lay down the law, and Haypro now charging in really with the remainder of his units, and Nada is not stopping for anything. Not stopping for Nada, in fact.
No, he's not. He's not at all, and it looks like Nada's going to rain siege onto this natural, and Haypro is on the verge of going 0-4 in this tournament and 0-2 in games, and it's looking pretty bad for his tournament life, but Nada has just got a lifeline.
Yep, Nada is back in the fight, which is what we would have expected from a player of that caliber after losing that initial play. GG, ladies and gentlemen, there you go, and Nada right back in.